want to welcome you to Empowering Pastors and Leaders. Today, we're going to cover a topic that we've kind of brushed on a few times, but I want to hit a little bit harder today, and that is commitment in leadership. What we have found, and this goes not only in the aspect of ministry, but also in business, and that one of the challenges in leadership is finding leaders that will be committed. There are a lot of leaders, but they don't remain committed. And the challenge of that is that you have constant turnover. You have constant rollover. You have constant reinstallation, which is a new beginning each time. Our problem with that is as you're going to grow an organization, the more that you have turnover, the less you have momentum. The less momentum that you have, the less progression you can acquire. So we're in a constant need of trying to find committed people. So the problem with commitment is that when you start studying people, one of the things you find is that most people are committed initially because they're excited. There's a thrill. It's new. It's exciting. I've never done this before. Oh, wow, I have a new title. I have a new position. I have a new opportunity. And there's an excitement that's built behind that. That in and of itself never means that you're going to have a committed person. You can never judge or gauge a person's commitment on their initial initiation. The initial initiation is always that they're excited, they're going to take the mountain, they can't wait, they can't wait to do more. They're more committed in their time in the office. They're more committed if there's need to be after hours. They're there if there's a necessity to go beyond their hours. But something happens over time. And the over time situation is that the loss of exhilaration is now upon us. Now, this isn't just in ministry. This isn't just in business. This is also in marriage. This is also with Bible college. This is also with a new job that you have in the secular realm. Every single boss and every single situation, when we initially begin, is that thrill. The issue is that you've got to learn how to stay steady through and past the thrill. That in and of itself is the challenge. Staying committed when you don't feel it anymore. Staying committed when the excitement is over. Staying committed when the workload starts getting heavy. Staying committed when your boss is asking you to do more than you did when you first walked in. Staying committed when all of a sudden you don't love what you do anymore. I have found that the people that wane or waver during this period of time and usually abandon during this period of time are people that will never in their lifetime become steady individuals. Because we're dealing with emotions. Emotions are that thrill. Emotions are that excitement. Emotions are that exhilaration. Those are emotions. Emotions can never be trusted. When you find a committed person, you'll find they've had and have learned how to be committed past the emotional status that you first experienced. But you will never stay committed if you are governed by the thrill. And that is where it is a challenge because the thrill does leave. You don't always feel it. You don't always like it anymore. I remember talking to a pastor, and he had gone into this ministry, and it was his first pastoral ministry, and he was very excited for the opportunity. And it was driving him. And I mean, I'm talking like, you got near him and it was the excitement kind of rubbed off on you because he was fresh and new. And wow. But then after a while, he got a few digs. He got a few punches. He got into the routine. The routine of life always eliminates excitement. What once was wow, now is like, oh yeah, I got to go to work today. And I looked at him and he said, I think I'm going to move on. I think, he was there just about a year, less than a year. And he said, I think I'm going to move on because maybe God's moving me on. I'm not excited about this anymore. And I said to him, no, you've got to remain steady, 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 steady. I said, you've got to be steady. And he looked at me and he said, Pastor, I just don't feel it anymore. I don't got it here anymore. I'm not passionate about this place anymore. And I said to him, if you do not remain steady, then you're always going to be governed by the lack of the thrill. And when those emotions wear off in every scenario, you will soon be packing up and leaving again. I knew one individual, one leader that left every year and a half. You could actually tag it. And I'm here to tell you that is going to be something that if you do not overcome, you will never learn how to be a steady leader through difficult times. You'll never learn how to be a steady leader through boring times. And I'm going to be straight if you've not learned it yet. Ministry and leadership, the majority of the time is boring. Yeah. It is mundane, monotonous, the same old, same old. We come in with this mindset, and I remember talking to an individual that was getting ready to go into evangelism. The Lord has called me to preach the gospel around the world. Hallelujah. And he was all excited about traveling, all excited about new places, all excited about all this. And I said, young man, remain steady, steady. God isn't going to change his mind next week. God isn't going to change his mind in a year. Steady. Well, after like 6 months, he came to me, he goes, I think the Lord wants me to go into more of a pastoral role. I said, well, what happened to evangelism? Well, it's not like all this cracked up to be. I said, absolutely. I said, you think a hotel is exciting every single night instead of your own bed? You think going out to eat is great all the time? Fact is that after a while, you just simply want a fresh cooked meal. You think jumping from location to location is exhilarating and exciting? Well, after a while, every place looks the same. Why? Because people are all the same. It's just a different landscape. We've got to know that what's going to make you somebody that's going to be a long-term leader is learning how to be steady through the loss of the thrill. And if you cannot be, you will realize that people will learn not to trust you. Trust is a massive part of leadership. And when you cannot be trusted, that you are going to be there, then they will not rely upon you or be led by you. When I came to this ministry, I want to remind you, we did not come to this building. We went to the Holiday Inn in Horseheads. There was 5 of us. I was everything. I was the one who carried all the equipment upstairs, set it all upstairs. I was the one who met people at the door. I was the greeter. I was the song leader. I was the offering taker. I was the preacher. I was the carrier-outerer. I was the follow-up guy. I was the youth pastor. That's right, I was it all. I remember all of that, and I want you to know the thrill ended really fast. But the Lord spoke to me and he said, you are a lifer in this church. And I want you to stand up your very first week and say, we are lifers. What I have found is that in our region, and every region is a little bit different, but in our region, the pastors didn't remain for long periods of time. In fact, the more study I've done, and I've given you the statistics before, the average pastor only lasts 4 years. The average youth pastor is about a year or less, and worship pastor, the same. And so what's happened is we see that people that need to be steady are not steady, so therefore the boat is always rocking instead of remaining. And when the waves come that are intense, you'll find if the boat is rocking and unsteady, then who's unsteady inside? That's right, the occupants. When you're doing ministry, you are not alone or you are not a leader. So therefore, your steadiness, especially in the storms, allow people to have a confidence and they will remain in your boat. But if you are a leader that is constantly, consistently, always chasing after the next thrill or needing a thrill to remain steady, then you are going to be a leader that when the trials and tribulations come and the thrill is all gone, they will not trust you and they will not remain with you. You are going to have constant turnover. What makes people depending upon you and knowing you are a dependable person is not that you're there, but you're there consistently after going through, and they watch you go through the hell and the high water. They watch you get punched in the gut. They watch you when things are mundane. They watch you when all of a sudden the thrill is gone. They watch you when it's the momentum is not there and you now have to recreate it. People are watching your leadership. And that's why commitment is so intense and has to be part of the fabric of your life. This is why so many churches closed during COVID. It's because the leaders were not consistent. They could not be depended on. They did not remain steady. Businesses that closed, and a lot of businesses closed, is the people were not steady. It's not that things didn't shift. I'm not saying that. Things shifted. I mean, we were outside for a few weeks. We came inside, we had to space the chairs. People had to answer questions at the front, get their temperature taken. They wore masks until they were seated. Once they were seated, things changed, but we were still consistent and committed. If you are committed to the vision, you are committed to a ministry, you are committed to where God has placed you, then the mundane has no effect on where you're placed. But if you are an individual that is not committed, you are just depending upon that emotional, then you will never remain steady past the thrill, and you will never find people trusting you. You will never find, and they will never see consistency in you, and they will never find you dependable. I want to be near dependable people. When I was going through my portions of life that were very unsteady, a part of my steadiness came from seeing my bishop, knowing what my bishop had been through, knowing that he died of a heart attack and came back, knowing that his wife had been diagnosed with breast cancer, and they remained steady in ministry, knowing that a relative split his church, knowing that somebody stole $1.7 million out of their fund. He was blamed for it. Knowing that he did not run, knowing that he was consistent and could be consistent and dependable through all of those situations, helped me be more consistent, helped me be more dependable, helped me be more of an individual that was committed to the task instead of running. Listen to me, running is never the answer. Quitting is never the answer. A new position is never the answer. Because in every time you come to a place of new commitment, you're going to have to level up. And every time you level up to the next level, you will plateau. And every time you plateau, you now have to revisit your commitment level. Because now you're not getting the thrills. Now the trials are real. Now quitting is easier than staying. Commitment is when you remain steady when quitting is easier. When quitting is easier and you take that out, your threshold is now always revealed. And you will always be brought back to that threshold. And you're going to have to make a decision at some point in time that you're going to remain committed past the threshold that brought you the greatest difficulties. And if you will not, then you will never be dependable, trustworthy. Now I want you to look at that word I just said, trustworthy, or worthy of trust. Leaders must be trustworthy, worthy of trust. The only way to become worthy of trust is to be consistent and dependable, to be a person that was immovable and is not emotionally driven when commitment is the principle. Until you grasp that, you will always vacillate. You will never be committed, and you will never produce great results. Because until you have truly committed yourself, you will never put your life on the line. We'll take Jesus as the greatest example of all. He said, I came and I will die, and this temple will be raised in 3 days. It's not that your commitment is not going to be questioned in your own head. Jesus knew why he came. But in the garden, his commitment was questioned in his own head. Father, if there is any other way, but not my will, I am committed to your will. And that meant he wasn't getting out. If you're not committed to the will, then you'll call the angels to get you out of the situation. You'll escape to the next position. You'll escape to the next opportunity. But you'll never be trustworthy to die and raise from the dead. You'll never be trustworthy or worthy of trust when people need somebody to be dependable. You must be committed. And if you are not tested past the commitment of I like it, I enjoy it, this is what I enjoy doing. I don't always like pastoring. I don't always like preaching. I don't always like being responsible. I have thought many a times, what would it be like to come home at an 8 to 5 job and be responsible for nothing? I thought of it. I said, wow, what would that be like? People get to do that. But the Lord said, listen, that's not what I committed you to. I committed you to the work of the ministry. And you committed to me that your life was not your own. So whether you feel it, whether you like it, whether you enjoy it, whether you are in the groove or in the momentum or floundering in the rut, are you committed to come out the other side? And if you're not committed, you'll always be a runner. No one will ever trust you. You'll stay short periods of time. And you will not be worthy of someone's trust. If you remember John Maxwell's 5 levels of leadership, the last one is called peoplehood. Personhood. Personhood is not acquired by short-term leadership. Personhood means that over decades of living, people can look at your life and say, steady as she goes. The storms, I've watched them rage. I've seen the hurricanes go through their life. I've seen the tornadoes arise and seem to rip everything up. But they're so committed, they rebuilt. Will you be worthy of trust? Are you actually committed? Or are you actually just an emotionally driven human that will never be dependable, that will never be worthy of trust? Leading for short segments so that you can keep your thrill run. Your first real litmus test is this. When you want to go, you can't go. When you want to quit, you can't quit. You never leave in the low. You never leave because you want to. You never leave in seasons that you've always left. Until you break through that barrier, you will never genuinely be a committed person. And in ministry, what that means is you're just a hopper like everybody else. So until you're confronted in your brain, in your mind, for let's be real, we can all convince ourselves of what's right and wrong. And it's not God, it's usually us. But there's a way that seems right unto man that leads to death. Until you can remain steady through that season of time where you hate being there. You don't like what's going on around you. You're not feeling it anymore. But you committed to it. You're steady in it. I'm going to bring up what my belated wife always said. You get up, you dress up, you show up, and you never give up. I watched that woman when literally she would be in pain to get out of bed. She would get dressed up. When she was so ill, at times she could only make it through one service, and she would have to go back in the office to sleep. You would never have known it. People never knew she was sick because she was committed to the vision of this house, committed to your life. She got up, she dressed up, she showed up with a smile on her face, and she never gave up. And we have generations, not generation, but generations of leaders that get up, show up, as long as they like it. You got to learn how to never give up. Until you learn that, you are not worthy of trust. You are not dependable. You are not steady past the thrill. Learn to be steady past the thrill. And you'll be somebody that will leave a legacy that people will want to follow. And you will help other leaders past where that place is that you already conquered. But you can't take someone through a battle if you've never conquered that battle. So be steady. Steady as she goes. Be steady. Be committed past your emotions. Thank you very much for watching today. I pray that blessed you and helped you. I want to encourage you, we're starting a subscription to where once a month I'm going to be sending out to those who have subscribed something special in leadership, paperwork, helping you, helping your staff. And it's $19.99 a month. You can go on my website, michaelspencerministries.com, and you can register for that. And we'd love to get a packet out to you as you partner with us to help train, build, and strengthen the kingdom of God. That includes ministry and business. Have a great day in Jesus.
Thank you for tuning in to Empowering Pastors and Leaders with Dr. Micheal Spencer. If you're looking for helpful, life-changing, and empowering resources, Dr. Micheal Spencer's books are available here. Just click on the link below and get your copies today. Don't wait. These resources will bring about the change and success you've been looking for. If you'd like to know more about empowering pastors and leaders, please visit michaelspencerministries.com. Also, if you'd like to become a partner with Empowering Pastors and Leaders, sign up online for the opportunity to do so. Thank you in advance for your financial support to help us reach into the U.S., Canada, Mexico, and Africa, and the different parts of the world. Empowering Pastors and Leaders will equip you to transform your personal life, ministry, or business to become the best leader God designed for you to be. Invest in yourself today and be the most effective leader you've ever been.